Out of memory on my phone, so I gotta make this brief. Notice she talks about zapping. Now, I don't know whether or not she is one of the less than 0.05% of people who has a real mental disorder as a result of brain damage, past drug addiction, drug use, chemicals in the food, radiation sickness, or whatever caused it, I do know that the CIA does zap people, secret societies, the government contractors. Yes, this stuff does happen. And yes, logically, moving around is a logical way to avoid it or to help minimize their ability to do it. And she's, basically everything she said is, are things that happen in society. And also this, she could be a victim of gang stalking legitimately. Okay? Incarceration is torture. Drugs is torture. It's a form of torture. Absolutely. Absolutely. Anyone who says otherwise is a dumbass. Okay? You could say that, waterboarding is for the purpose of, getting this person to tell the truth. And a side effect is this, that, and the other thing. The torture is the side effect. I'm not going to get into that. Let me just wrap this up quickly before my phone cuts out, because I'm almost out of memory. Look, it is not fair how they are treating her. If she commits a crime, even if she is sick, let's just because these people aren't going to see it our way. They're not smart. They're not moral. They're not righteous. They don't care about the Constitution. They're drug dealing trash. And you have to beat them with their own arguments. That's the only way to proceed with these people. So we have to say, well, even if she is sick, is she hurting anybody? She has a choice to make. Do we when somebody cuts their hand, do we fucking force them to go to the hospital? Is it a law? We're going to detain you unless you go to the hospital and treat your hand. And that is something that can actually arguably infect you and kill you, and so on and so forth. She has a right to believe what she wants to believe. Period. We should not infringe on that right. I don't think we should be detaining people who seem to be a threat to themselves or society. I think we should give them an option, whether or not they want medical treatment. I think we should tell them to leave places that they're not wanted, say they're disturbing the peace or whatever. Okay? I think we should only arrest people who have committed a crime that we can prove. Okay? Do we put blacks in institutions because they're 4 times more likely or whatever it is to commit a crime? You're black, this core. These 3 pages that I'm going to read from chapter 17, the end, and I believe chapter 18, the last chapter, have to do with my situation. Think about how they try to use criminalization instead of admitting that they're political prisoners. It's the same thing with mental health. They're trying to use psychiatry instead of admit that I'm a political captive or a political prisoner. This is from chapter 17, page 432 at the bottom. Political prisoners are commonly subjected to isolation and sensory deprivation, which are used by the penal system for behavior modification. Visitation and telephone contact are also limited in prison facilities, utilizing sensory deprivation, often called control units. Prisoners are placed in an environment without natural light and fresh air or physical contact with other human beings. These and other behavior modification measures are intended to break strong-willed individuals. Although these control units are a growing trend in American prisons, political prisoners particularly have been assigned to these facilities as a means of coercing them into abandoning their movement, associations, and political beliefs. In 1987, white radical anti-imperialist prisoners Sylvia Berardini and Susan Rosenberg and Puerto Rican independence fighter Alexandrina Torres were held in an experimental special unit at Lexington Federal Prison for Women in Kentucky. The high security unit, HSU, where they were housed, had individual cells designed for sensory deprivation. The entire environment was painted white in each cell, which was 30 feet underground with fluorescent light shining 24 hours a day. The women were also routinely strip searched by male guards, and they received no contact visits, and even their attorneys had difficulty seeing them. In developing a case to oppose these conditions, the American Civil Liberties Union obtained psychologist Richard Korn to investigate the effects of the HSU on inmates. Dr. Korn concluded the HSU was designed to force ideological conversion. Amnesty International also challenged the United States concerning HSU at Lexington as violating the international standards for treatment of prisoners. After 3 years of protests by the supporters of the HSU at Lexington were closed. In response to a federal lawsuit filed by the United States government, just filed by the attorneys of Berardini, it's hard to read from the phone because I'm trying to, and Rosenberg, a federal judge found the United States government had violated the First Amendment rights of the activists and ordered the Federal Bureau of Prisons to desist from using political beliefs or associations as the basis for transfer to an institution. This is key right here. I have to read it again. I know I read it fast. The United States government had violated the First Amendment rights of the activists and ordered the Federal Bureau of Prisons to detest from using the political beliefs or associations as the basis for transfer to an institution. So it is against the law for the Federal Bureau of Prisons or anyone else, especially mental health, to use the political beliefs or associations as the basis for transfer to an institution, a correctional facility, or a mental health institution. Unfortunately, however, isolation and sensory deprivation remained a growing trend in the American penal system, and political prisoners continue to face these conditions as punitive measures because of their political ideology and practice. In an interview, new African POW Sundiata Akoli commented on the treatment of political prisoners. Akoli stated, "This is key. This is fucking key. Listen very carefully. Our daily existence is harsher than most other prisoners because the government does everything possible to break us. They send us to the harshest prisons, as far away from family, friends, and attorneys as possible, isolation. They lock us down for many years in isolation units while cutting off our communications with most of the outside world. They tamper with our food." I don't think you heard me. They tamper with our food. Try to break up our families and treat them rudely when they visit, fail to provide adequate medical care, aggravate and provoke us. They try to set us up to be brutalized or killed by guards or preferably by other prisoners. All this and more to try to break our spirits and or to make us proclaim to the world that we were wrong to struggle. In other words, they isolate, they fail to provide adequate medical care, or misdiagnose, if diagnosed at all. They provoke and they try to set them up to die. All these things I have been claiming for quite some time as a political dissident with over 3,300 videos on YouTube alone. So why on earth would anybody assume otherwise? Now, I'm going to read from page 434, and then I have one more page and I'm done. So I guess it's 4 pages. The United States government utilizes a policy of criminalization in regards to its incarceration of insurgent activists and revolutionaries. Although Black Panther and other political prisoners were often targeted by the counterinsurgency apparatus of the U.S. state, they were arrested, tried, and convicted of violations of the criminal code. Some criminal violations developed from the political and military confrontations between insurgent activists and federal, state, and local police, but other charges were manufactured to remove radical political activists from their communities. By criminalizing political detainees, the United States government can boldly make the claim that it holds no political prisoners. In making such a claim, the federal government can piously challenge the human rights records of other regimes, such as Cuba, China, or the Sudan. Through an effective policy of criminalization, the United States government is able to maintain its image as a citadel of democracy and a champion of human rights. I don't think I have to explain that to you. Last paragraph. I think this is still chapter 17. I could be wrong. No, I'm not going to. It's page 448, so it really doesn't matter. Anyway. There is a domestic price to pay for the new globalization as more... No, excuse me, wrong page. Okay, other page. This is for a study by a guy from Harvard. Studies have shown that unemployment generates a slew of negative social consequences.
A study by Dr. Harvey Brenner of Johns Hopkins University concluded that a 1% increase in the unemployment rate leads to 37,000 deaths, 920 suicides, 650 homicides, 4,000 admissions to mental hospitals, and 3,300 admissions to state prisons over a 6-year period. The Fortis and McAlden report, prepared for the Joint Economic Committee of the United States Congress, also highlighted the adverse social impact of increased unemployment. So what are those 4,000 admissions to mental hospitals? Are those biological factors? No, they're not. No, they are not. They are environmental factors, and they directly correlate to an adverse change in the fucking environment. You sniveling dogs. More intelligent than you are. You sniveling dogs. I'm Heru. Heru, the top martial artist. Horus, the transcendent. The golden horse, the conqueror. Fucking transcendent. Beyond you, hero. You salad tossing, shit pushing, cock sucking, gay bobs. Fucking pussies.